to Keeping It Real. I'm your host, Krysta Gibson, and I'm also the publisher of NewSpiritJournal.com, an online publication with tons of really interesting and valuable articles that can inspire you, educate you, enrich your life in so many different ways. So do check that out if you haven't already. Usually on my Keeping It Real shows, I interview someone. However, today I decided to give a mini class instead. One of the things that I do besides publishing New Spirit Journal and writing books and articles is I'm also a coach. I am a spiritual mentor, spiritual coach. And I work with people, helping them with their lives, their businesses, whatever's going on with them in different ways. And one of the questions that I am most frequently asked by clients or even in classes is, how do I get in touch with my inner guidance? How do I follow my inner guidance? What is my inner guidance? And I thought today I'm just going to give a brief mini class about this issue, give you some tips and ideas that you might want to try out for yourself. And even if you already feel you're pretty good at that, who knows, you might pick up something. I know for myself, everything I read, everything I listen to, everything I watch, I always learn something. Even if I think I know it all, which I know I don't. So let's just talk for a minute about what guidance is and why do we call it inner guidance. Well, what guidance is, it's your way of being able to be in touch with a quote-unquote higher part of yourself, whether you want to call it your higher self, your God self, the Holy Spirit. There's lots of different names for what it is, but it is a connection that you have, that you innately have, we all do, to information, to insights that can help you make decisions in your life, that can help you navigate so that maybe you take more right-hand turns than you do left-hand turns, where things tend to work out better for you, where perhaps you avoid some difficulties, issues, and problems that you could have otherwise. And so you do have an internal, it's kind of like an internal GPS. Now, we are not generally raised in this culture being told that we have this, nor are we raised being taught how to use it and how to get in touch with it. You know, what we're taught instead is listen to authorities, listen to people outside yourself, hear what they tell you you should do. You know, what does the priest say? What does, the school teacher say? What does your parents say? So everything is always, well, what does everybody else say I should do? And the very last person you ever ask is yourself. And again, I am talking about a higher aspect of yourself, not just your day-to-day persona who makes decisions based on, what they can feel and sense. This is a whole other thing. And it's difficult to talk about it. What's going to be really valuable for you, if you haven't done any work with this before, is to try doing it. And once you do that, then you'll know what I'm talking about. And when I'm talking about it here today, I think you'll start to get it. I'm going to tell you a really quick little story. I've written my autobiography called Anything is Possible. And it's how a former nun counseled drug addicts, worked in machine shops, survived a serial killer, became a spiritual teacher and publisher, and what this means for you. There's a story in here where I was working in machine shops, and there was a man working there who was just really rude and mean and nasty and awful. And, he bugged me a lot, and he called me names and just, treated me really poorly. He hated women. And he and I had had to work an overnight shift together, and he had been particularly mean and nasty. And when I was getting ready to leave, I was at the time clock and I was punching out. He came up behind me, and he was very sweet and very nice, and he said, "Oh, Krysta, I am so sorry that I treated you that way. I never should have talked to you like that. Let me take you out to breakfast." Well, everything in my entire body screamed, no, don't do this. Now, at that age, I was in my 20s, I was still a people pleaser, especially when it came to men or somebody in authority. Pretty much, well, they all knew more than I did. And so for me to listen to that was a big deal. I did listen, thanked him, and said no. Long story short, a little while later, turned out he was a serial killer. And according to the police, had I gone with him that morning, he would in fact have killed me. So learning to follow your inner guidance can not only be fun and helpful, it could save your life. And I've known other people who, once they get in touch with their guidance, they might be driving down the highway and they suddenly get the impulse or the idea, change lanes or take a right turn here. And they do it, they follow it, and what do they find out later? There was an accident there. Or sometimes they're going to go one particular direction and guidance says, no, take a different way. So there's all kinds of practical applications to this. Things even like, what if you could walk into a bookstore and kind of intuitively know which book is what you need right now? What if you could see an advertisement for a class that, let's say it's expensive, costs $850. Good class, but a lot of money. And what if you could find a way where you could say, is this really the right thing for me? Is this a way that I should spend my money? Am I going to benefit from this? And get a solid answer that you could actually trust. I think that'd be pretty valuable. So I'm going to give you some tips here. And I did want to mention that in general, there are 3 primary ways that people get their guidance. This is not all of them. And again, if you're already doing this and you go, oh, Krysta didn't say this, she didn't say that. This is a mini class. I'm not covering everything. I don't know everything. But we're going to talk briefly about the clairs. There is clairaudience, clairsentience, and clairvoyance. Clairvoyants are people who see things, and not necessarily in this world. They might see lights or colors, but they see things, and it might be just, mentally seeing. Then there's clairaudient, people who hear. People hear tones, or they might hear voices, or they hear some kind of guidance, maybe chimes. It's different for different people. And then there are clairsentient people who feel. So when they're in a situation, they know a certain feeling means yes, a certain feeling means get out of here. No. So as you learn to work with this, and most of us are all 3, most of us have a combination of all 3, but what you may find is that you will work with one of these more than you work with other ones. So be open to that. Do you primarily see, hear, or feel? So the first thing that you want to do if you want to start getting in touch with your inner guidance is obviously make the intention and say, hey, higher self, soul self, God self, whatever you want to be called, I want to start receiving information from you. And I am hereby declaring that I am open to that. I am going to be receptive to that, and I want you to help me do that. So state your intention. Secondly, state that the only information that you want is information that is the highest and the best for all concerned. So you're not looking for information about other people. Now, I'm going to separate what I'm talking about here from doing readings for other people. That's a whole different thing we're not going into. And we're not talking about psychics or having psychic information. We're looking for guidance here. Those are other conversations, and maybe at some point I might have a guest on the show who wants to talk about those. But we're talking about internal guidance. This is talking about your life, your decisions, and things that you're going to do, not trying to do readings for other people. So you want to state your intention. Then you need to start providing some kind of specific time, whether preferably some kind of a meditation practice, and that can be sitting and meditating, it can be walking in the woods, whatever your way is to get in touch or in tune, so that you take your attention off the outer world and on your inner world and put your attention there. When you meditate or when you get into that place of receptivity, it's easier for information to come through both at that time as well as during other times of the day. Because what we're looking for here is an ongoing guidance system, so that it's available to you all the time, not just when you sit down and journal or just when you sit and meditate. But a meditation or a prayer practice of some kind is the basis of being able to develop your connection to your own inner voice. So if you don't already have a meditation practice, start one. State your intention, then start paying attention, because you've said, okay, I want this. Now start paying attention to that and watch for signs and signals Start off with very simple requests, things that you might want information about. Don't go for the big stuff. Go for the simple kinds of things during the day, something you want to know more information about. It could even be like, let's say you're at the grocery store and you're thinking, gee, I'd kind of like to try a new vegetable or a new fruit, or is this maybe you're looking at vitamins. Is this vitamin going to be good for me or not? And start asking questions and then paying attention to the responses that you get. Act on it and see what happens. That's, one of the most important things is to take action. You can sit and ask for information all day long, but if you're not then taking action on the information, you won't complete the loop and get the feedback of, was it right or was it not right? Did I misunderstand it? Or was there a different way that I could have asked for this to be clearer? One of the things that I recommend people do in the beginning is carry a notebook and a pen. You can use your phone if you want to. I prefer the old-fashioned way because it's just more immediate and fast. It's easier to jot something down than opening up my phone and opening up a note and so on. But do what works for you. But start keeping a record of, these are the questions I asked, this is the response I got, this is the action I took, and this is what happened. So that you start having a track record that you can look at and go, oh, okay, yeah, and how did it work out? So it's like, all right, well, so I misunderstood that, but when I come back to it, then I look at it and go, that's what that meant. I misinterpreted it. And that will help you get better at interpreting the information that you're giving. I also suggest that people start a little dictionary for themselves, their own personal, private inner guidance dictionary. So what does it mean, for instance, if you're walking along and you see a white feather on the ground? Does it mean anything? Notice, write down, I saw a white feather on the ground. Did anything unusual happen after that? Did you receive any other piece of information? For many people, seeing a white feather on the ground means they're having an angelic contact of some kind. And sometimes it's just a case of being reminded that the angels are with you and are helping you. So there's things like that that can happen, or when a particular phone call comes in, or you run into a particular person. So keep records. That's one of the really important things to do, because when we're dealing with the world of intuition and of guidance, we're dealing with more of a right brain world, and things don't stick around as long. What I like to say, it's like a hummingbird that comes to the hummingbird feeder, and they kind of light there and they take a few sips and they're gone. They don't hang around that long. And it's the same thing with guidance. You'll be given information, you'll be given an idea, you'll be given an insight, and if you don't record it, frequently it disappears. Why? I don't know. I just know that that's very true. The other thing is there are tools that you can use. And one of the most favorite tools that people use are pendulums. And this is a pendulum, but usually it has, one end you hold and a chain or a cord, and then another end that moves. And you work with the pendulum to where if it spins right, that's a yes. Left is a no. Back and forth is maybe. You work with that yourself and get your own system. And you don't need anything fancy. The first time I used a pendulum, it was a nut on a string. So it can be anything. You use a screw. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to run out and buy yourself a $100 pendulum. If you even want to try one. There's the tarot. There is the I Ching. There are the runes. Look around at some of the oracular systems that are out there and find one that you resonate with. Don't use a ton of them. Just choose one and become really familiar with it. Study it, learn it, use it a lot so that it becomes a friend to you. It becomes another part of yourself. I've been working with the tarot over 30 years, and I can pull a particular card, and I don't need to pull out the book. I still do love to read about the meanings, and I have many books on tarot, and I love reading them, but I don't need them. I have worked with the cards so long that when I pick a particular card, I know in a certain circumstance what that means. It doesn't always mean the same thing. And it'll be different if I'm doing a reading for a client. It's not the same, and it's not the same for that client every time. So if you pick a tool like that, again, the pendulum, the tarot, the I Ching, the runes, whatever it might be, you personalize it. Don't just make it where, oh, well, the book says da-da-da. Well, so what? Fine. That's good information. What does it mean to you? And what'll happen is you'll get this whole system built up for yourself that you can rely on and depend on. Now, you can't always be carrying your tarot deck or your pendulum with you everywhere you go. Say, stop a meeting with your boss and say, hey, boss, wait, got to pull a tarot card. That may not go over so big. And so you also want to get to where you have a sense of rightness. You have a sense of yes and no. And that, again, it comes with experience. Some people feel tingling kinds of sensations. Other people use muscle testing. There's a system where you stand or sit and you work with your inner self so that a slight movement forward means yes, a slight movement backward means no. So there are systems like that that you can work with and attune yourself with so that at any time you can access it. And eventually what will happen after you work with whatever you choose to work with and however you choose to do this, what will end up happening is it'll be almost automatic to where you walk into a situation, yes or no. You don't have to access anything. It's just there because that's when you have finally made that connection with that higher part of yourself. Now, are you 100% right? Of course not. Nothing is ever 100% on this planet. Nothing. So you're not looking for 100%. You're looking for most of the time so that you do start feeling more comfortable and learn to trust yourself. That's a whole big part of this. And that's why as you work with this, when you get the information and you decide to act, take baby steps, and just kind of like, okay, well, I think I'm getting a yes. So I'm going to pick up the phone and call so-and-so, or I'm going to get in my car and drive to thus and so place, whatever that might be. But you want to take a baby step and then stop and get response. Do not in the beginning use any of this for making major life decisions like taking a job or not taking a job, marrying somebody or not marrying them, moving across the country. Do not use it that way when you're first starting out. Use it in the little daily things, the little decisions that you have to make during the day, or the little life things, so that you can eventually get to where you can trust yourself and trust the information that you're getting. Learning to access and follow your inner guidance really can be literally life-changing because it puts you in the driver's seat and it puts you in a position where you can make decisions with confidence and really feel clear and sure about what you're doing. So give some of these ideas a try. If you want more information about it or if you want a session with me, you can get in touch with me at Krysta@newspiritjournal.com. But you don't really need to talk to me. I'd love to meet with you. But and I do sessions by phone and Skype. I don't do in-person sessions hardly at all because I have people and clients all over the place. So it just makes sense to be able to reach people using technology. And I do love technology. So thank you so much for being here today with me. I hope that this has been helpful to you. Please feel free to make comments or send me an email and let me know. And remember the title of my show is Keeping It Real. Everything that I offer you, everything that I say here, any of the people that I bring you, it's all about making your spirituality or whatever you're doing practical, bringing it into your everyday life, keeping it real. See you next time.